Hello everyone, welcome back to another one of my video. So in this video, I want to talk about color. I want to talk about how to keep your colors clean. And you can see some of the photos that I took, and they are all part of the same location, but just a slight different angle. Like always like to keep multiple angles so I know the location, I know the type of light that I'm dealing with. And so again, this is the same type of lighting situation, very kind of late afternoon light. That light is actually very intense, and the color is actually not quite the full autumn color yet. This is late summer, so the color is not quite that bright and saturated. And so I'm actually gonna push the color a little bit more and just to exaggerate that a little bit. Now, just like all my other videos, I always like to do a value study, just to kind of help me give me an idea of where I want to go and help me with the block-in. And you can see the value studies actually um, has only your dark tone, a mid tone, and light tone. It's very simple. It kind of gave me a good idea of where the major shape is going to be. Once the drawing's done, I start out with the background. With watercolor, every time you work on, you put down a color, and when you put another color on the top of it, the color gets duller because you start out with a white paper, and as you put more color in it, it just gets darker. And then if you have other color, it just loses the intensity. Or depending on if you're not careful, you end up with a muddy color. So um, I start out with the yellow, and then from the yellow, I have a mix other color within that yellow. So there's all the color that you see right now is very it's really just the first. I mix all my colors ahead of time, and from one big puddle I would actually shift that. As you can see, the yellow, the orange, the red, and so this is all part of this kind of the same family. So I don't try to go back and forth. And right now, it's just getting the darker color in that. So this area is supposed to be lit by the sun. It's the most intense color. The again, I don't try to go back in and put other color on the top. And once I mix my color, I put it down, I leave it. I don't go back and forth. I don't go do any glazing. So this is how you can keep your color clean. And if you plan ahead of time, you could actually mix a big puddle and then use that big puddle and shift that color around. And within that same puddle, it will feel like it's part of this. They kind of relate to each other. You'll see some color harmony. And now with the yellow and the kind of a cooler yellow, very intense. This is the bottom. I'm painting the reflection of the colorful leaf. And again, this is the light tone. If you look at the value study, I'm painting my I'm painting my light tone, and this is the part that light kind of mid light tone. And then the green right here, it's actually in the it's in between the light and shadow. So as you can, the actually the dark green that I just put down, this is the part where the shadow starts. This is the mid tone. Again, the light tone, there are a lot of colors. It's gonna be the most exciting part of it. And then the midtone is where kind of the transition where you can see the kind of a lot of green, and within the green there's also a cooler variation. You have the blue, and then the 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 midtone has to be with. I cannot go too dark because at some point I'm gonna have to. If I go too dark, then I'll it will lose my dark tone, my midtone. So you can see the midtone is actually has a lot of variation as well. You can see there's a lot of the bright and saturated green, and then in the middle you can see the blue that's kind of cooler, and it's working next to the warmer orange. And then on the left side, you can see the much intense green and darker. And the blue that I'm putting down is actually with some of the rocks, or the edge of the pond. So again, this is actually my midtone, and each color that I put down is like the first time. I don't go back and forth. I just hit it. I use my value study. I know where my mid tone is. I know where my light tone is, and I know where my dark tone is. So it actually gives me a good idea of where to put my the next tone. And so the whole goal is to mix the right color, put it down, don't go back and forth, and they may not have to be in the exact spot. I just need to approximately put these tones in approximately where they are, and the drawing part is not that critical. I mean, I do not have to be 100% right on, because I'm not doing a portrait or something that requires accurate drawings. So again, I'm getting my dark tones in, and my midtones are in now, and you can see I'm beginning to put my dark tone, and this is the area where you will compare to the value study. You'll see the most colorful area is the light. It's the yellow, orange, and then the midtone is the kind of the opposite, kind of the complementary of that, to really uh, contrast, to bring out the contrast of the color. Again, it's just now slowly getting into my my dark tone. When you are painting, it's much easier when you have all values in, all your light tone, mid tone, and dark tone in, so you can see the value relationship and the color relationship. And sometimes, if you prematurely decide that, oh, this is not going to work, and you might give up on a painting that's too, you would give up too soon. So in this case, I'm getting my dark tones in, and the dark tone that I'm currently putting down is the reflection of that. And again, go back to look at my reference. I mean, my value study. You'll see that the pattern is still that's the pattern that I decided to go with, and then I actually putting in some of the darker color in some of the midtone that's still wet, so you can see some of the edges are pretty soft. And if I go, you'll notice that the color on the top, because the first layer of the paint is dry, so you can see the edges are a lot more sharper, and the brush has a lot more sharper edges. And actually, some artists like to uh, try to keep maintain the wetness of the paper as they paint. And so they for me it's like I actually don't mind to have the different type of edges, even though right now some of the hard edges feels kind of harsh, and but I actually don't mind that. I'm confident I can fix that later. And so my goal is not to worry about edges right now. And if I get it the first time, if the timing is good, yeah, it's nice to have that. But it's not my priority. Is not about getting that um, the right moist of the paper or the paint. And my goal is to make sure that the value structure I have is working. What I'm doing right now is trying to uh, fix the smaller shapes to connect the big shapes, and some of the smaller details, the white area, that the smaller white shapes, or I feel like it's distracting. I will actually go in and clean it up. Again, the whole idea is to just constantly looking at this as the entire composition and not just focus on the little details. The details will come later, and also uh, by hitting everything the first time and not go back and forth, it's much easier to maintain that clean color. And if I mix a big puddle of color and I work with that big puddle of color, it's quite easy to keep your colors clean and not having to do all these glazing. And again, it's keeping a good idea where you want to go. And so right now, while the paint is wet, I think it's important for me to get that white line. It's like the move. This shows the movement of the water. So, and I occasionally do this because if I wait for, I mean, I could have just wait for the that wash to dry and then use and lift that out. But I feel like lifting out is not as effective as using a palette knife. And when in order for me to do that, the paint has to be some like I would say 80-90% dry. Otherwise, the paint's gonna fall right back into it. It's gonna and you can see part of it. It still has a darker line instead of a white line. So in this case, it worked out for me because it also has both. It has a darker line and also lighter line. So at this point, I'm sure you can see that I sped up this process, and this process actually it's much longer, and this is the time that actually takes kind of the longest. And I usually start out with the center of interest, and decide on where you want to go. And even before this, before I even get into this stage, I usually once the block-ins are in, like all my dark tone, mid tone, and light tones are in, I usually take some time and just to look at the block-in and see if that is worth my time to spend time to add the details. Because sometimes when you're done with your blocking, and sometimes it may not work. It may not have it may not be the direction I want to go, or at least not. In this case, I actually feel like this is the direction I want to go. I have got the color that I'm looking for, the composition, the reflection, the everything is. I feel like it's going in the right direction. So it's worth for me to spend another like few hours just to polish this piece. Again, the blocking sometimes takes anywhere between half an hour to 45 minutes for a 9 by 12 or 10 by 14 or 12 by 16. The polishing part is going to take the longest. So again, looking at that, I'm just adding some details and fine tune the shapes a little bit. Decide on where your focal point is going to be, and really just spend time and get that in. And I always like to start out from there, and because it just give me if I can direct the audience eyes that that is the area that I want to spend time. And again, I'm adding some more saturated colors in there. I like to bring my audience eyes to that area, and that with that intense color and the way the composition works, I think that's the area will need a lot of attention. And then I'm also using a small brush to kind of get rid of some of the smaller shapes and some of the white shapes can be distracting. And oftentimes it's a good idea, even though I'm doing, I'm polishing the small detail, I still, from time to time, use a big brush to just to get the shapes, just because it forces me to think about the big shapes and not just getting caught up in just kind of doing that rendering mode. I don't put details everywhere. I um, I put a lot of emphasis on the center of interest or the focal point, and other areas I try to suggest to my audience, and just to give them enough to look at. Here I am using a synthetic brush to lift out some of the lighter color in that shadow. And so it's just I feel like it's important to work on even some of the lighter, smaller shape, and this is the time to do it, especially around the center of interest. And don't forget to take break as well. Sometimes it's very easy to kind of sit and get comfortable and start painting, and that's the time when you will overwork your painting the most. Just having a clear idea where you want to go. Always think about where your focal point is going to be, and think about what's the feeling that you're trying to convey. Keeping that clean color is not as difficult. It's just require you to plan ahead, think about your value structure, and mix your color. And then when you're done with your color, once you put your wash down, don't go back in and fiddle with it. Put it down and move on to the next one. And then when you're done, go to the next tone. When you're done with the light tone, go with the mid tone. And then when you're done with the mid tone, go to the dark tone. And so this way, you don't go back and forth. Once you get your three values in, it's much, much easier for you to judge that painting. I think the easiest way to get the cleanest color, the harmony, is to plan ahead where you want to go with it, and then mix your color, put down your wash, move on to the next one. Now at the end, if some color needs to be bring out certain intensity, you want that, then by all means go back in and add that glaze that you want, or to add a glaze that to harmonize everything. I hope you guys like this video, and please feel free to share, leave a comment, and see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.